never be defeated.
On February 16, 2008, about 500 concerned Canadians of all ages braved the frigid cold and descended upon Queen's Park to voice their dissent and demand of politicians a national referendum to stop Canada's participation in the Security and Prosperity Partnership of Montebello.
Thank you all for coming out. Today is February 16, 2008, a landmark day in Canadian history when across the country, Canadians are saying no to the North American Union, no to the SPP, and yes to Canada's sovereignty.
On what was to be a nationwide protest held in 15 cities across Canada, it was here in Toronto where fellow activists and citizens came together in solidarity with jelly bean shakers and placards in hand to educate the public with a unified voice of discontent about the undemocratic and sovereignty-stripping SPP.
And I tell you now, from the depths of my soul, if we do not stand up and scream no from the tallest of rooftops, if we do not become Paul Revere's and ride like hell, Canada will no longer be Canada. Our government will not be accountable to any Canadian. And this nation will be controlled by multiple cartels which are licking their chops over the riches that belong to us, the people of Canada.
This is our country and it has to remain free. And before I go, I just want to say, American patriot Edward Abbey said, a patriot must always be ready to defend his country from its government. And when the government doesn't represent the people, you and me and everybody else, we need to go.
This is our country. And if this is our country, then why are we letting them speak for us? We are the people. We are in the majority. We are the ones who build these roads. We're the ones who build these skyscrapers. We're the ones responsible for Canada.
You're seeing democracy, the people ain't running shit. The big corporations got a leash on the government, subverting democracy to profit, they're loving it. I don't know about you, but I've had enough of it. No corporate masters, no government fascists, no Atlantica, no more NAFTA. Free trade is the biggest death machine.
To understand the implications and consequences of Canada's participation in the SPP, we need to first go back to the defining moment of SPP resistance: the protests in Ottawa and Montebello, Canada during the North American Leaders SPP Summit of August 2007, for it was here where the real agenda behind the SPP agreement was exposed.
It's 10 a.m. and we shall begin on time. I'm Howard Phillips, Chairman of the Conservative Caucus, a non-profit, nonpartisan public policy action organization in the United States, which has organized this coalition to block the North American Union.
We're here at a hotel in Ottawa early on the day of August 20, 2007. Later in the day, the meeting of the Security and Prosperity Partnership will occur. We are not in Montebello, where the meeting is being held. The reason we are not there is quite simple. The proceedings are being held behind closed doors. We and other opponents are not welcome. Unlike the national leaders gathering in Montebello, however, we have nothing to hide.
So what exactly is the Security and Prosperity Partnership, and why all the fuss?
Well, the Security and Prosperity Partnership is an agreement that was entered into in 2005 by our then Liberal Prime Minister Paul Martin, U.S. President George Bush, and then Mexican President Vicente Fox. It was then reiterated in 2006 when Prime Minister Harper was elected. So this is something that crosses party lines.
The SPP is an agreement
for certain working groups to take over certain aspects of Canada, America, and Mexico's society, various aspects of industry and legal aspects and governmental aspects, and to essentially harmonize them is their word. Now, harmonize is an Orwellian term for merge. So these independent, unelected working groups are getting together and they are drafting agreements that will affect all of us in North America by merging our various bureaucracies and various government agencies, as well as corporate and trade policy that without our permission. And since we live here, since we are people who work in these jobs and work for these corporations and vote for politicians to represent us in government, it's a real tragedy that we don't have any input into these massive changes being planned.
Well, I don't know too much about it partly because it's really been quite secretive, and I don't think many people except the people on the inside of it know too much about it. But what we do know is that it's basically, it kind of picks up where the North American Free Trade Agreement and other attempts to sort of push us closer to the U.S. Leave off. It's an attempt to integrate the economies and the power structures of Canada and the U.S. and Mexico more than they already are. And we know that it's being driven by the corporate elite and the with the cooperation of all three governments.
Well, the Security and Prosperity Partnership immediately brings to mind a question: for whom? Because it certainly isn't for Canadians, Americans, or Mexicans. It is essentially a means by which the security of the North American continent is being bundled into one massive border. Of course, by doing that, you eliminate the reason to have any other internal borders, namely the Mexican-U.S. border and the Canada-U.S. border.
This is something that we should have some input in at the very least. It's more like I wouldn't get into a car with somebody unless I knew where we were going. And what's happening right now is our corporate elites are driving us somewhere by locking us in the trunk, basically, blindfolding us with the media and taking us to a place where we're not sure we want to go because we weren't asked first.
The security function of the SPP is the primary one. This is the one where, through all these machinations that come under the word prosperity, what they get to do is make us accept more and more security measures that we are told is going to increase our ability to be prosperous and all of that good stuff, but it doesn't work out that way.
I mean, one of the key areas that they're interested in is greater integration of trade, and that sounds like a good thing, right? We want more trade. But for instance, one of the things they want to do is harmonize the standards. And what that means essentially is changing the Canadian standards to move them to the American level. But the problem with that is that the American standards are often much worse than our standards. And one area, for instance, where we have an example of this is in pesticides on fruits and vegetables. And there's already been a change in this area as a result of the SPP. And that change has been to make the Canadian standards weaker to bring them in line with the American standards. Well, you know, it's interesting because in the SPP vocabulary, they refer to these differences in standards as trade barriers, so something that has to be overcome, a barrier. But those trade barriers are, in the case of pesticide use, something that protects Canadians. We have higher standards. We require farmers to use less pesticides. That's a good thing. That protects us in the food we eat. So the last thing we want to do, in fact something we've already done though, is make our standards worse in the name of removing a trade barrier. Well, maybe it's more important, in fact I would argue it is more important, to have tougher standards for pesticides than to remove something that may be a trade irritant. I mean, let's get our priorities right here.
At an April 2007 meeting in Calgary, Canada, as part of the Security and Prosperity Partnership, government officials, business leaders, and academics met to discuss redistributing Canada's water to Mexico and the U.S. Southwest. Canada has water, lots of it, and the public-private partnerships of the SPP are swarming on it like locusts as they seek to drain it out of Canada's rivers and streams and ship it to the potential profit centers south of the Canadian border. NAFTA describes water as a good and stipulates that, quote, no party may adopt or maintain any prohibition or restriction on the exportation or sale of exports or any good destined for the territory of any other party, end quote. In a leaked document of the minutes of the 2004 meeting of the Task Force on the Future of North America, a precursor to the SPP, it said, quote, no item, not Canadian water, not Mexican oil, and not American anti-dumping laws is off the table. For that reason, it is understood by the participants that once Canada starts exporting fresh water to the U.S., it would be impossible to turn off the tap.
And when we sell off our resources, there are sections of the agreements, like in NAFTA, called proportional sharing, where if in the future we have a shortage, we still have to send the same proportion that we sent in prior years, even though we may suffer or have to acquire that resource from somewhere else at a higher cost. So how is that? Yeah, import from somewhere else. And now they're talking about our water. The minute we start trading water, then the proportional sharing clause in the free trade agreement comes into play, and we will have to continue to send our water south, even though we may have a shortage for ourselves. Now, how does that benefit the people? It doesn't.
Essentially, what is going on is that the corporations that are involved in the consultation process with the three governments are setting things up so that they can maximize their profit. They are setting it up so that our labor is mobile, and therefore they can get their resources at the cheapest price, they can get their labor at the cheapest price, they can destroy our industries, our economy, our basic standard of living by all of this, but they maximize their profit. Then they sell it back to us at market prices.
Why are they not telling us what's in it for us? The reason they're not telling us what's in it for us is because there's nothing in it for us. If there was something in it for us, then they would tell us what they were doing with the SPP, with the NAU.
Although the SPP directly affects many specific issues, it is also part of a much larger scheme.
Have removed, and this is a bipartisan move. Republicans and Democrats alike, all expecting campaign contributions from multinational corporations. We've had here so far a Bush-Clinton advanced plan to take the North American Free Trade Agreement and advance it into the Security Prosperity Partnership. And we say if we do not stop it, we'll soon be at a North American common market, followed by a North American community, followed by a North American Union, and the elite have even named the new currency the Amero. If the elite have actively named the currency and are discussing it, I believe the American people have a right to be informed and to weigh in on the subject.
The Security and Prosperity Partnership will eventually develop into a North American Union. There's already talk of a common currency called the Amero, and once a country loses sovereignty on its money, it's completely lost sovereignty on everything. And being that our Bank of Canada is owned by us, as opposed to the Federal Reserve in the U.S. being a private corporation, if we lose sovereignty on our money, we can just say goodbye to Canada. The name Canada will still exist, but just in name only.
This was already tried in Europe by, again, the same global corporate elite, international banking families, international corporations that want to have free trade, which when they say free trade, again, everything is Orwellian. When they mean free trade, they mean managed trade. They mean things like the GATT, the General Agreement on Trade and Tariffs, which according to Thomas Friedman in the New York Times is 385 pounds and 22,000 pages. Now, within those 22,000 pages, they hide a ton of regulations as various corporations and other entities wander up to the trough and try and sneak in their regulations that guarantee them profits, that guarantee them control over the world's resources.
The leaders of Canada, the United States, and Mexico will issue emphatic denials, but their hidden motive propelling them in creating the Security and Prosperity Partnership is to advance one step closer to the centuries-old goal of a world government known as the New World Order.
It all boils down to sovereignty, which is the nation's self-rule. And I should define that for you, because a lot of people don't know what sovereignty means. What it means is that a nation that stands alone has the right to make its own laws, to govern according to the needs and benefits of its own people.
These agreements, these arrangements are not about trade. They're about the destruction of sovereign nations. There's an intention, a deliberate intention, to destroy nations and to destroy sovereignty. And it's about time that we've got political leaders that are prepared to take the bull by the horns and call it for what it is and say it's got to stop.
And the interesting thing is, the World Trade Organization website actually came right out and said that this is the international version of a contract. You must obey these rules. If you do not obey these rules, you're in deep doo-doo. Deep doo-doo. So you can get out of them, sure you can. But what would happen if we all of a sudden decided to go, we don't want to be here anymore? Well, the first thing that would happen is all the remaining nations in the trade group would then turn around and stop trading with us insofar as they were capable of doing, because we would then be labeled a rogue nation. So once they've got you, they don't want to let go. And what we're seeing now is we're seeing these agreements popping up left, right, center, and sideways. Everybody's signing an agreement with everybody else. And really what's going on is every government is being crippled by these groups. Every government that's involved in any trade group is being hamstrung, and tighter and tighter and tighter. The more agreements we sign, and NAFTA and the SPP, these are among the most nefarious, because they have direct impact on how we actually live in Canada, how we live in America, how we live in Mexico.
American University's Dr. Robert Pastor is a key promoter of this grand scheme, and he stated very clearly in a 2004 issue of Foreign Affairs magazine, the Journal of the Council on Foreign Relations. He said, NAFTA was merely the first draft of an economic constitution for North America. U.S. Secretary of Commerce Carlos Gutierrez confirmed the view given by Dr. Pastor when he stated in March 2006, quote, "The Security and Prosperity Partnership seeks to build on NAFTA. World government has been the goal of a power-driven and self-perpetuating conspiracy for some 6 generations. Military conquest hasn't achieved their goal. Wars and revolutions haven't accomplished it either. So the master planners have turned to misnamed free trade and seemingly innocuous economic unions to reach their independence-canceling designs." This is what Henry Kissinger meant when, in 1993, he implored the U.S. Congress to approve NAFTA. He said it was the most creative step toward the New World Order and a step toward a free trade zone for the entire Western Hemisphere. And it was what David Rockefeller meant when he simultaneously urged the U.S. Congress to approve NAFTA in order to, quote, "build a true new world in the Western Hemisphere."
The security and prosperity are what they sell us. Again, everything is Orwellian. We have to look at it that way. When they say security and prosperity, it makes us think we're going to be more secure and prosperous. But in reality, they're going to be more secure and prosperous. We're not. And partnership as well. They think that this is a partnership. But it is a partnership made up by unelected bodies that do not represent the people's interests, because they are taking no referendum from the people. They are not taking the people's input into account. So this is leading towards the merger of Canada, America, and Mexico by allowing them to secretly draft these agreements. And they're doing this at the local, at the city, at levels, at the state levels, provincial levels. They're essentially offering compartmentalized bribes to various different groups by saying this is what's in it for you personally, and so sign over your sovereignty. Allow us to build the North American Union NASCO superhighway through your city. Allow us to set up ports in your city. Allow us to set up private military firms in your city. This is all part and parcel of that. And what they want to do is they want to lock us down in this framework without our permission.
So finally, when the government pushing the North American Union agenda allows the people to vote, just as in Europe when the European Union was created, the votes will be on fait accomplis. on events that are presented to the people as you have no choice but to approve what we've already done.
The eventual goal is by 2012 is 3 major trading blocs: the EU trading bloc, the North American Union trading bloc, a Pan-Asian trading bloc, and then an African Union as well in the mix somewhere. And that would be 3 trading blocs centrally controlled by a global government system out of Europe. It sounds fantastical, but this has been talked about for years. And if you just look at the history of the world, you can see the history of empires, from the Roman Empire, Alexander the Great. All of these people throughout history, all of the elites throughout history have wanted to essentially rule the world. As the Tears for Fears song says, everybody wants to rule the world. And so this is nothing new historically.
It's a disgrace in Canada that we have not one political party that's in Parliament, not one provincial party in this country who are saying we do not want a North American Union. And this small party called the Canadian Action Party, that's been around since 1997, based on sovereignty and independence, is a party that's saying to the Canadians, we're here for you. We're the vehicle. The other parties have let us all down, and the only reason the Canadian Action Party exists is precisely because none of the other parties are prepared to stand up for the nation of Canada, the independence of Canada, and the sovereignty of Canada.
We're here to resist this and to say it's not too late. A great grassroots movement is emerging among the 3 countries, and those of us who want to speak out will continue to do so, regardless how many names we're called. I've always said that when we begin to be called names, we're the conspiratorialists, we're the internet black helicopter conspiracy theorists. Well, what's going on over there in Montebello behind closed doors? Is that not the real conspiracy?
It's not that the model isn't good enough for an integration of North America. We're saying we don't want an integration of North America, period. We want Canada, period. We want our independence, period. We want our sovereignty, period. We want our nationhood, period. Nations matter. Canadians are different from people from the United States, and we're different from people from Mexico, and vive la différence.
Yes.
Just prior to the summit in Montebello, White Buffalo Films, along with members of Toronto 9/11 Truth, caught up with the leader of the New Democratic Party, Jack Layton, to find out his party's stance on the SPP.
Hi there.
How are you?
I'm well.
Excellent.
How are you?
I'm Jacob.
Good. Are you with a group?
Yes, we're with Toronto 9/11 Truth.
Oh, very good, very good.
Do you know much about the North American Union, sir?
I certainly do.
What are your views on the North American Union, if I may ask you? Do you have any?
I beg your pardon?
Do you have any views on the North American Union?
Well, I continue to study it. Well, in terms of the North American Union, we've launched a major petition, which we're presenting to the House of Commons. Peter Julian, our critic, is doing a cross-country tour. We're holding a huge gathering in Ottawa prior to the Montebello meetings.
We'll be there.
We've told the Prime Minister that he should sign absolutely no agreement whatsoever with the Americans without a full debate in Parliament and without hearings and a full process to involve and educate Canadians on the issue.
That's brilliant.
That's the position we're taking. You're welcome to
That's brilliant. Thank
visit
you.
our website. It's a high priority for us.
Excellent.
Thank you.
We arrived in Ottawa on August 19th, the day before the 2007 Leaders Summit in Montebello was to begin. It was here where a massive protest was being held, involving many different groups and like-minded citizens who marched through the streets, demanding answers from politicians and the corporate elite alike. Hundreds of police from multiple jurisdictions and cities across Ontario lined the streets and the rooftops. Dan Dix, activist and owner of the investigative journalism company Press for Truth, also attended the demonstrations with his brother Kevin and shot extensive footage of the protests and police presence in the city. We caught up with Dan at Seeker's Bookstore in Toronto some weeks later to discuss what we witnessed.
There was a heavy police presence in Ottawa, like I've never seen before, actually. I noticed them all throughout the town, all through on the rooftops. Down at Parliament, there was, you know, countless police watching the protesters and whatnot.
Stage up here, please. All speakers to the stage.
Hello.
Nos conférenciers, s'il vous plaît, en avant ici.
They're also in those pictures up there.
Oh, I got them all.
They're funny, they're good. I'm glad you have. You got the two up there.
I got those two as well.
The two over there, yeah, the over there as well.
They're everywhere.
They do it to intimidate people. It's part of the police state mentality. Get people used to seeing tons of police around and get used to being watched and get used to being in a free speech zone and get used to this and get used to that so that when the final push comes, we're more than willing to give up our civil rights and freedoms.
There was one particular incident when I was down at the U.S. consulate where I was simply just filming the police activity, seeing what's going on, and one of the officers there informed me that I'm not allowed to tape.
Hang on. Let's get a shot at these guys. What's that? I don't know. On a public sidewalk? Yeah. Okay, let's go. You guys have any idea what's this building? No. No.
So I continued taping because, I mean, they've been taping all of us the whole day, and I know I'm on a public sidewalk, and I know we're allowed to tape at that point. So I just continued to document what was going on.
Do you guys know what's going on here?
We're just watching the sidewalk.
All right. Takes a lot of you to watch one sidewalk.
Plus, we get to visit with people.
Well, that's true. True.
Where are you guys from?
Toronto.
Toronto?
Yeah.
Whereabouts?
Well, downtown. Right downtown.
Big place.
Do you know Toronto? Oh, yeah.
I live there.
Oh, very good.
That's where police, man.
Yeah.
So what he's doing here? Long way from
We're
Toronto.
covering this.
Sidewalk.
Well, yeah, our Prime Minister is meeting here.
Yeah.
So we're coming to see what he's doing.
You're still videotaping me, man.
Yeah, I am.
Point it down on the ground and videotape.
Oh, yeah?
At my boots, that's fine. It's on my face.
All right. Well, that's all right. We got to move on. All right, we got to move on. What's up?
Well, I had asked you guys for some idea, and you said you didn't have it.
Yeah, that's right.
I find it almost impossible that you don't have any identification.
Well, I don't. Well, we just don't bring it.
Pardon me? You came from Toronto. You do have video.
Sure, yeah. I just don't keep it on us.
ID. Nice. Did you drive here?
Yeah. Left everything in the car, man.
Not a good place. What if your car gets stolen?
Hopefully it doesn't. Hopefully. Keep our fingers crossed. What's the problem, sir?
They're still recording now, but they've been recording the building and everything.
We're not recording the building, we're just checking out what's going on here. Yeah, we're about to move on down to Parliament if we can.
Yeah, go ahead, guys.
Thank you.
See you later.
One officer I was talking to in particular was from Toronto, so they had them coming in from all over. There's no way they have enough of that kind of a police presence in Ottawa alone.
How you doing, fellas?
In a nutshell, what that really means is that there are no multiple jurisdictions anymore. All jurisdictions are under one jurisdiction. They all march to the same tune. They all take orders from the same source.
One day prior to the rally and protest in Ottawa and Montebello, I got a phone call in the morning from somebody who identified herself as being from the federal government. And when I questioned the federal government, she said the Minister of Public Security. And then she verified who I was, because there's more than one Wendy Forrest in the city of Toronto. She made sure that I was the Wendy Forrest from the Canadian Action Party. And then she told me that she needed to see me that day. Very important, she needed to see me. Well, the very next day, I was working at my desk, and in fact I was still in my pajamas, and the doorbell went, and I asked my mother to go get the door, and then she came back within a minute and told me that it was the person that had called me on the phone the day prior, and they were at my door. So I had to go quickly get dressed so that I could go outside and speak with them. And my mother told them that it was very strange that they were showing up at a person's door without any notice, without a phone call or anything like that. And she found that to be very fishy. And it was two women, two young women actually, that said, oh, you know, very innocently that they were just in the neighborhood, which is just insane. Nobody is ever just in the neighborhood, especially when you don't know them. So when I got myself dressed, and then I went outside, and my mother accompanied me, and we stood, my mother stood at the door, and I stood outside on the porch facing them. I did not invite them into the house. I didn't think that I needed to. So I said that I didn't like the fact that they were at my door, and that they had no reason to be at my door, and that I was just a law-abiding citizen. I wasn't doing anything wrong. And she said, oh, we have no concern about you whatsoever. And I said, well, why are you here? And she said, you know about the rally and protests that are happening this weekend? And I said, yes, of course I know. In fact, I'm going to attend. And she said, well, we have a concern that there might be some violence or something planned during that time. And so we are looking for people that might be able to help us out. So essentially they were looking for informants. So why they thought that Wendy Forrest from Canadian Action Party could assist them, I don't know. I said to them that that I had no way of knowing if anything violent was going to be planned. I was not a violent person and would not get involved in violence, but it didn't mean that I didn't think that protesting wasn't the right thing to do.
In fact, the Canadian Securities and Intelligence Service's own website even lists anti-globalization activists, among other widely known peaceful groups, as a potential risk for domestic terrorism.
They were there for about 10 minutes, and so essentially they were looking for informants, and I said to them that I had no way of knowing if anything was going to be planned, and in fact they would know better than me if there was going to be anything planned. And so it was left at that, and I went on about my day, and so did they. But it was very, very strange. I'm a citizen, not doing anything illegal, and I'm just speaking out. And they caught wind of it, obviously, because of my participation in the meetup group and also on Facebook.
Social networking sites like Facebook, MySpace, and Meetup have become essential tools for activists to network and share information, as well as organizing events and rallies. These same sites, however, have also become essential tools for law enforcement, as they are under constant surveillance from police and intelligence agencies worldwide.
I've come to realize that the that the internet is the only way that we're going to be able to get the word out. I've really been putting a lot of effort into the meetup group and also into Facebook. I've started a number of pages on Facebook, again, to increase CAP's exposure and exposure to the issues. When the police show up at your door because you're talking about something, then you know you're on your way to a police state.
The village of Montebello is located about 100 kilometers northeast of Ottawa, on the Quebec side of the Ottawa River. Canadian Prime Minister Stephen Harper, U.S. President George Bush, and Mexican President Felipe Calderón were set to hold a two-day summit on the SPP at the Chateau Montebello the following day, August 20th. The Chateau is a world-renowned hotel. It is the world's largest log cabin and was also the site of the 1981 G7 summit, but unlike 1981, would only now become the center of globalization resistance and unparalleled security.
They like holding these things in remote resort locations. One of the things is that they're essentially trying to bribe the corporate elite by giving them lavish, places to go, by saying if you join the club, you get to go to these incredible resorts and have these secret meetings and join the old boys club, the global corporate transnational elites. Montebello was chosen because it's a resort, essentially.
There was big mention of this 25-kilometer security perimeter. And also what they were saying to the people was that there was going to be American military to enforce the security perimeter. They said anyone with more people, anyone with a vehicle than more than 4 people in it are going to be turned away. So immediately people are going to think, I can't bring busloads of people, I can't bring more than 4 people.
That's the idea, is that in Montebello, Quebec, it was a fairly remote location, so it was tough for people to access, which means it was tough for people to protest at, whereas Ottawa is a more traditional protest location. It was easy for them to secure. It was a small town, so they could sell the small town the economic benefits of holding a conference there. There's reasons for choosing Montebello. There wouldn't be just one reason, but I'm sure these guys and these think tanks who got together chose that reason for a specific location, which they haven't revealed to us, so we can only guess.
It turns out there was no such thing. I didn't have a problem. We drove right up, but I didn't know what to expect, and I think maybe some people were, maybe it did attract some people, but I think it was more of a deterrent. Got the cameras rolling.
Chateau Montebello, straight ahead.
Straight ahead, 2 kilometers up.
Chateau Montebello.
Coming into Montebello, there was really, me and my brother had gotten there quite early in the morning. There wasn't any protesters there yet, 1 or 2. We just drove right on past the Chateau entrance.
Entrance right there.
Looks like it. Yep. Chateau Montebello, the sign right here.
We should try and turn in.
Don't think so.
Yeah, right.
And we pulled up to the press area. We noticed all the media trucks that were there. So we pulled into the press area and just said we're with the press. And he said, okay, go ahead and park. And so that's where we parked. As soon as we got out of the car, we realized that's where the supposed live feed cameras were set up and the little field that they had designated for all the protesters. Suppose this is going to be the live feed area.
Since the Supreme Court has ruled that protesters have the right to be seen and heard, it was decided that a live video feed would be set up where protesters could voice their discontent to TV screens set up throughout the chateau.
There was a huge security fence going all the way around the perimeter of the chateau. Cameras on it every 20 or 30 feet, guards all throughout. Certainly some big-time heightened security when you have people like this coming to town.
Do you know what's happening today? Bush Oh, really? Oh, okay. You know that Bush is coming, right? Just that Bush is going to be here.
President Bush.
Yeah, that's it?
I spoke.
Yeah? Okay, cool. All right, thanks.
Along the fence line, it was mainly local police from Quebec. I spoke to some of them along there, and they, you know, seemed like some good guys, but they just showed up to work that day, and they're guarding a fence. As soon as the busloads of protests started showing up, I was excited to see that many people starting to show up.
Not allowed in past here? Okay.
In 2 days from now, you'll be okay from here.
Okay. Do you guys know what's going on here?
Right now?
Yeah.
Nothing special.
Nothing special. The president is in town, in Harper, in Caldrone.
Is he your president?
He's not my president, but he might be soon. That's what's happening. This is about the North American Union.
Okay. Anyway, you're not allowed.
Not allowed right here? All right.
See you. Have a nice day.
See ya.
I mean, these guys are all the next presidential candidate. Republican and Democrat, they're all members of it. They said it. They don't care. This is not about party. This is not about partisanship. This is really about pushing the line, free trade. There was the FTAA. There's the Mayacor. These are the global scope, the WTO. People reject them. But now they're going for smaller steps. North American Union before the old Americas. And this will be a super police state, and you will have to do what you're doing right now every single day. And you will need, I mean, there's be a lot of jobs and cuts in militaries in coming times. And once they start to tell you need a microchip in your body to be able to cross borders, they're saying it now in the States. They want the militaries to be microchipped. So they can check their health statues, they can, all these things. They just want to be sure to know where everyone, I mean, it's just common sense for people. I think people, they believe in, they're humans. They believe in love, they believe in freedom. That's what everyone wants. There's just a few psychopaths out there that decided they wanted to have all the power in the world and took the steps to ensure that. Nobody in the Villager wants to be world conqueror or anything. They don't set themselves to do that. These people do, and they're protecting them. It's
7 hours from here. Yeah, that's the scary part. Because you got two sides of the story, right? You got the one side, and you got the other side. Have a good day.
Can't speak to protesters, of course.
No more talking, eh?
You will end up in YouTube, and that's not good for us.
I remember being up there close to the front gate and looking back, and there was just all these kind of protesters kind of spread out along that entire street. So nobody really came up to the front of the area, you know, together until the first line of riot police decided to show up.
You guys don't belong here. You guys don't even know what you're doing. You don't even know what you're involved with here. Stand up for yourself. How about you stand up for Canada, guys? This is the death of Canada right now, and you guys are supporting it.
This is the death of Canada!
Ah, come on, man. That's it. Be fair, people. This is Police State America.
This is it, in Canada, right
Be
here.
fair. Give up your freedom and your liberties.
You guys don't know what you're protecting here. This is your country too. You should have a right to choose what you defend. This first line of riot cops, I noticed they didn't have any gas masks. They were older gentlemen, probably some officers in their 40s and 50s. Most of them had a white patch on their shoulder.
Yes to democracy, no to the SPP. Yes to democracy, no to the SPP. Yes to democracy, no to the SPP.
The first line of riot cops pretty much stood there, I would say, for about an hour and a half to maybe 2 hours. And even then, things were going fine. The crowd was not necessarily worked up in any way at that point.
Immigrants and refugees under attack! What do we do? Stand up, fight back! Calm people under attack! What do we do? Stand up, fight back! Immigrants and refugees under attack! What do we do? Stand up, fight back! Under attack! What do we do? Stand up, fight back! Afghanistan, Baghdad, under attack! What do we do?
After about 2 hours, I would say, they did a shift change where they brought in a whole new group of riot police, and they took out the older guys with the white patch, and they put in some younger, a little more aggressive police officers, and these guys had a red patch on their shoulder. And I think at that point the crowd equally got a little tiny bit more worked up at that point.
And describe, what was the interaction like at first, and then what sort of things were they talking to the police? Were they?
Well, at first there was a lot of just of talking to the police, of just sitting there and voicing their dissent to their political leaders, and just trying to explain to them why we're here, what we're doing. Nobody was really getting aggressive at that point. Things were even up to that point, things were pretty smooth, pretty calm. And that, again, went on for, I'd say, about another 2 hours. And after that, they brought on the third shift change of riot police. So now what's happening there is the crowd is equally getting a little bit more worked up, because the intimidation factor has been stepped up, you know, by the police, and the crowd took notice. It was all throughout the day. The intimidation level was steadily growing, and the crowd was equally getting a little more into it, a little bit more worked up as the riot police progressed in their intimidation level.
Poconoville now.
After attending the Conservative Caucus press conference in Ottawa, we nervously began our drive to Montebello. Although most of the drive was unimpeded, we did encounter checkpoints as we got closer to the summit.
Okay, Steve, you can do the talking. Get ready, boys. What about this mic on my shoulder? Are they going to say anything?
If they ask, it's for protection.
Okay, you guys do the talking. I'll say nothing.
Well, no, you're the driver. You can't say nothing.
Yeah, let me ask you. That's okay. I'll talk.
I'm with my son. We're going to Montebello. So we want to go straight.
That's right.
Oh, they have it all blocked off.
No, they don't.
Oh.
Dans d'aller où?
Montebello.
Avant le château ou après?
Parle anglais? English?
Non, little bit.
You just...
Straight?
Is there a detour?
Avant le château ou après le château?
Before the chateau.
Yeah.
Faites le détour.
Okay, detour.
Okay?
Yeah.
Thanks. Oh.
Oh, so they cut off any...
You want to get this?
So we can follow those guys?
So I have to go around.
You get them, so you get in the police escort. There you go.
Can I go?
Yeah. Oh. Here's the cops.
Ready to catch up to it?
Yeah, may as well. Who knows? I guess I could.
The detour took us through many back roads of the Quebec countryside. At least we had a police escort.
Right, part of the detour. That's where they're headed. Surprised they're making the cops go around the long way.
Well, they're probably setting up another checkpoint or something.
No.
Well, it's probably already set up.
I want to stay behind the cops.
At one point, some pushing started to happen. People wanted to get closer to the front, and it was starting to get pretty congested up there. So as soon as the line started pushing a little bit towards the riot police, that's when the first shot of pepper spray, I believe it was, got a lot of people over in the corner over by the tree. A lot of people got blasted for pepper spray, and from that point on, I think in the eyes of the protesters, you know, they were prepared for anything at that point.
Fuck the police! No justice, no peace! No the police! No justice, no peace! No racist police!
There's people that are extremists that'll throw a rock.
No justice!
No, yeah.
Fuck the police! No justice, no peace! Fuck the police! No justice, no peace!
Yeah. That's what the problem is.
Yeah.
No. Not you guys, not anybody around you.
Police!
Look what you're doing.
Yeah. Okay, watch it. All right, watch yourself.
Yeah, watch it.
I hope you understand that.
Yeah, I hear you loud and clear.
All right, well, there we go. We have understanding. Look at them. Those are fucking idiots. You see? Look what they're doing.
What's that, gas? Oh, shit. Oh,
They
shit.
created them.
Oh, shit. Back up, Kev. Back up.
Let's go, 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 go.
Watch out. Oh, here it goes.
Here, you want to get up here and get some good shots? I'll protect you.
can't breathe. Can't breathe. Oh. Oh man. You alright?
A little spray in the eyes.
Can't breathe.
Democracy looks like. This is what 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 democracy looks like.
So yeah, I don't think the initial pepper spray was necessary, but that certainly sparked, you know, what everything else that happened in the rest of the day. That's for sure. Oh man. Oh shit. Oh shit. Get it. It was right around at that time when I was backed off a little bit that one girl got hit with a gas canister, and she came running over and she was crying, and you know, she had the pepper spray and the tear gas in her eyes, and there was actually a few people who got it really bad at that point.
Now, briefly, Carl, at this point, everybody's boxed in. There's a fence and there's 2 lines of cops, correct?
Yeah, exactly. You essentially, if you can picture a rectangle, you have the first front line of riot police. To your right, there was an entire line of another line of riot police, which essentially ran right into a graveyard that was there. They had to block off the entire graveyard. And on the other side of the road, you had a fence and a creek, and basically nowhere to go. So everyone was essentially really boxed in. There was nowhere to go. And there was riot police in front, to the left, and to the right. There was just nowhere to go. You know, I think the field that we were supposed to be in, I think their intention was for us to never be in that field. Judging by the way the first riot police came out and set up that that box, if you will, and right away, right from the get-go, everyone was kind of boxed in on that little street.
A few days after the summit, a very revealing video shot by Paul Manley of the Council of Canadians surfaced on YouTube, where it showed Quebec police officers posing as Black Bloc anarchists, with rocks in hand, attempting to incite violence at the otherwise peaceful demonstration.
This is our line. This is for old guys, grandmothers, grandfathers. Hey, our line. Come on, it's our line. Bugger off to your line. This is our line. Sitting out of here. Take your hands down. Come on. I know. Hey. Brother, take your mask off. No. Put the rock down, man. This is our line. You fucking cops! You fucking cops! Get out of town! Cops out of town! Hey, Steve! Leave these guys alone! That's our line! You're fucking cops! It's our line! It's our line!
Over in the corner down by that convenience store, where some of the union leader and a few other people had gathered there to do their protest thing, and that's where the provocateurs got called out on their action.
They want us to be aggressive with them. They want us to be. You guys are never comes from them people trying like this. C'est les amateurs provocateurs. Exactement. No. Put the rock down! I'm not for this stuff! It's a fun stuff! Chicken shit! Hey, take your mask off! Take your mask off! You're a fucking cop, the three of you! Go on, it's our line! It's a peaceful demonstration!
At that point, these police provocateurs who were dressed as aggressive protesters, they kind of got backed up into a corner. They didn't know what to do at that point. I think they kind of knew they were caught. They didn't know how to get out of it.
These three guys are cops, everybody! Put the rock down, cop! Please, it's to your face! Come on, come on! It's to your face! It's not gonna help. It's not gonna help. Come on, cop! And then go another way. They won't leave them.
So they had no choice but to dive into the line of riot police, all three of them. And right away, you know, it was totally obvious that these guys are working for the police. I mean, you don't just dive into a line of cops when you're getting accused of being a cop.
This is our line! We want the cops out of there!
Quebec police initially denied the allegations, but were later forced to admit, at least in part, to employing the tactic after all.
As soon as they got arrested, somebody stuck a camera up and took a picture and managed to capture a picture of the bottom sides of their boots. And lo and behold, the provocateurs were wearing, all three of them, were wearing the exact same boots as the Quebec police. So right there, that was, you know, some definite proof.
Of course, the purpose of this, you know, it's an old tactic, police tactic to discredit protesters, to make them look violent. In fact, I think it's absolutely clear that the protesters for the SPP, as the protesters for, you know, all occasions that I've ever had any knowledge of in Canada, are peaceful. And they're not trying to be violent, they are simply trying to draw attention to their issue.
It's to normalize that in the view of the people, so that when they see it on TV, they think, oh, those people were bad, we had to tear gas them. There's a reason, because the police don't do things like that unless there's a reason. And unfortunately, that's not the case anymore.
You know, we should be absolutely alarmed and outraged over a police tactic of trying to subvert that peaceful process and make it violent, and thereby discredit the legitimate protests of people that are not satisfied with the SPP.
We knew that that this would happen because they don't want people speaking out, and they have to make it look like we're breaking the law, or that the people that are protesting are bad for some reason, instead of citizens who are actually looking out for the country. because dissent is patriotic.
Canada's Public Safety Minister Stockwell Day dismissed calls for an investigation and instead directed complaints to the Sûreté de Québec.
In a nutshell, Stockwell Day poo-pooed the whole idea that, you know, and he said this is standard procedure. Not in Canada, it's not. It's not supposed to be. You know, if this happens in the United States, we Canadians get all smug and we say, well, of course, that's the United States. That's Bush. We don't expect that kind of subterfuge here. We don't expect the ministers of our government to represent corporate and security concerns over the support of the people who pay their salary. We don't expect that. And because we don't expect that, it's a real shock when they turn around and make it like it's nothing, it's standard. Well, I'm a Canadian. I've lived here more than half a century, and I've never seen anything like that going on in Canada. We have it now. Why? And who started this? And over whose objections? Did anyone get to object? Did we hear about it in advance? No.
I mean, my reaction to that is outrage. I can't think of anything more almost subversive on the part of government than to be discrediting legitimate political movements that are protesting, you know, a highly secretive movement by the corporate elite to compromise Canada's sovereignty. I mean, this is, you know, this is just basic democracy, and the idea that our Minister of Public Safety, Stockwell Day, would kind of, you know, be so contemptuous of the rights of protesters that he would just kind of shrug and say, we don't care that the police are trying to discredit these protesters and frame them, essentially. I find that just despicable.
Do you think that there should be an investigation into the Jean-Paul incident?
There should absolutely be a public inquiry. And to some extent I would blame the opposition for not being more adamant about this. I mean, we've seen the incredible reaction in Canada over the tasering of the Polish immigrant in the Vancouver airport. Wonderful reaction. When Canadians see these things, they react very strongly. I think, you know, this is a similar kind of abuse of police power and absolutely deserves serious inquiry and serious investigation and serious condemnation.
We interviewed Member of Parliament Olivia Chow of the NDP to find out what her party was doing about the incident.
The NDP has been very clear that we want an inquiry. We had two members of Parliament, Peter Julian and Libby Davis, that was at the Montebello, and it was clear from the videotapes that, and they admitted it was police. And who was giving them instruction? What were they doing there? What did they do? And what was the purpose? And I think we need to get to the bottom of it. Yes, you're right. The Public Safety Minister, Stockwell Day, said no. We're not satisfied with it, and we want this matter investigated.
Did you want to just quickly tell us how you actually predicted provocateurs being there as well?
Right, yeah, at one point, I mean, I just got the sense that there's most likely going to be provocateurs in there. I just by looking around and you know, being in those kinds of situations before, I just realized, you know, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there's provocateurs in here, you know, to try to start inciting violence, and turns out I was right. You know, they probably put some provocateurs in this crowd. Some police, and they start throwing rocks, give these guys an excuse to stop us.
Let's now take another look at this clip where Dan Dixon and his brother Kevin talk to one of the riot cops just before tear gas is fired. Listen closely to what the officer says.
There's people that are extremists that'll throw a rock.
No justice! Fuck the police! No justice, no peace! Fuck the police! No justice, no peace!
Yeah. That's what the problem is.
No.
Not you guys, not anybody around you.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, watch it. All right, watch yourself.
Yeah, watch it.
I hope you understand it.
Yeah, I hear you loud and clear.
All right, well, there we go. We don't understand. Look at them. Look at fucking idiots.
Oh, shit.
Look at what they're doing.
What's that, gas? Oh,
Look what
shit.
they're doing.
Oh,
They
shit.
created them.
Oh, shit. Back up, Kev. Back up.
Let's go, 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 go.
Watch out. Watch out.
Are we at all surprised by these comments? Given the recent history of provocateurs infiltrating peaceful movements, this should really come as no surprise.
This is definitely. No, I think we got to park here because once
Should
we
we?
get in there, yeah, we
can
may
always
as
turn
well.
around though, right, Steve?
Let's
Well,
just pull
I don't
over
You
for
don't
now.
know where you're walking to.
Okay, let's decide.
After driving the detour for over an hour, we finally arrived around 3 p.m., where we were forced to park many kilometers from Montebello and walk to the village the rest of the way.
Montebello. Oui, pas trop. Merci.
Ah, ouais, là, t'es la plus. Le monde, je suis actif.
But if you see it, you know, just
Yeah, of course.
They just block everybody, kind of.
How has it been right for we just got here?
They're doing a lot of pepper spray up front now.
Are they?
Oh yeah. But they let us have our couple hours, and now it's they want to show who's boss, kind of thing, you know.
And is it just like Quebec police, or have you seen any U.S. Army or anything?
No, it serves everybody.
Good stuff. Good on that.
They just keep gassing.
Yeah, that's the strategy. It's like your little mini Quebec.
The smell of pepper spray began to permeate the air as we got closer to the chateau, and many protesters had now begun to leave.
Poor sorry faces, all pepper sprayed.
We felt a surreal calm over the remaining demonstrators as we reached the front line.
I got some unbelievable footage today.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Good stuff, good stuff. Yeah, we just got here with a fucking detour all the way around. We came in from the other end.
A row of Ontario Provincial Police, clad in black, now dominated the front line, while battalions of more riot police waited in the wings.
With the marching, with the chanting, with the pounding of the shields, it was all very much like the military, you know, and these are police. Anytime you need to, you're wondering, is our police form, is our police becoming more and more militarized? Just look at what they look like. Look at what they're wearing. Look at how they move. Look at how they act. And I think we got some obvious indication in Montebello that our police is definitely being more and more militarized.
The same. I can't tell who's who. You guys are just dressed a little differently, for God's sakes.
police are about protecting the people, the military is about fighting an enemy. So there's obviously a big issue when it comes to police becoming more and more militarized, which was very apparent. I think the militarization of the police starts within the actual the police force. You know, it comes down to a change of how the training is done, and you know, police school, and how are they brought up to think and how to act. That's slowly being changed, I believe.
Even reporters from national news media came prepared, with combat helmets and gas masks in tow, resembling embedded reporters from distant war zones like Iraq and Afghanistan.
Seriously, like my mom can see me now. Well, no, I know, but don't you think that's a little crazy just as a Canadian? I mean, I know you're. I mean, I'm a sound guy. I've done the same thing as you have, but I'm sure it's cool and fun. I've always wanted to go in a war zone, just not in my own country. You know, I always thought maybe I'll go to Bosnia, maybe I'll go to Africa, not to Montebello. It's all good.
Well, hopefully they'll be sympathetic.
Well, I know, but just no, they won't.
It's intimidation. That's what it's all about.
Intimidation. That's all it is.
Exactly.
So we need another battery in the table.
Let's see, so far we've seen some chemical weapon injuries. The police have used pepper spray and tear gas, and it looks like what the police are trying to do is move the line back. I would gather that they're nervous because the barrier is pretty close to where we're standing right now, and I gather that they're a bit nervous about where the protesters are, but the protesters feel that this is their democratic right, so that's where we're seeing some of the use of chemical weapons. So what you get is irritated mucous membrane, particularly the mouth, the eyes, nose, a lot of panic. So one of the big things that we do is tell people walk, don't run, marche, ne cours pas, so that people stay calm, so that we also clear hazards to sort of make sure that everybody's sort of staying safe, that there's nothing in the way if they do decide to run. So generally health and safety is what medics are about, and we have a whole team here of people who are sort of dedicated. We coordinate, we meet up every few minutes just to make sure people are as safe as possible, and that's really what it's about, is protecting everyone's health and safety. Thank you.
Although many types of riot control agents are used worldwide, the most commonly used, especially in Montebello, are OC pepper spray and CS gas, which is the most widely used type of tear gas.
Man, you know, tear gas is terrible. I'll just say that. I mean, I don't even think they're allowed to use this kind of chemical warfare in an actual war. Here we are using it on peaceful protesters nonetheless.
Well, the Geneva Conventions and the UN Conventions in terms of warfare are pretty specific, but they're also being ignored largely. Tear gas is, of course, a noxious substance, and the conventions, as I understand them, are that you're not to use them. You're not to use them in a warfare situation. Of course, that does not deter our police, who are not subject to the Geneva Conventions because they're not at war. It does not deter them from using them on the population.
The bottom line is that they are stepping up their attacks on us on every level, and the use of tear gas on people in Canada by Canadian authorities has been seen before. It was seen at OCAP protests in Toronto. It's been seen at Native protests. It's been seen at all sorts of protests. So this is normal, but the fact that the media is making it normalized is something that we have to be concerned about.
And yeah, that stuff is brutal. You know, you can't see, you can't breathe, you're choking, and there was a lot of people who got affected by it, including myself and my brother. You know, there was a lot of people who just had no choice but to run for cover and spray water over your face and do the best you can. bit of a lull there where people were really just kind of having a good time. You know, there was a point where they almost just ignored what was going on with the riot cops up front and just kind of chilled out for a little while.
Solidarité! Solidarité!
Singing, there was people on drums, there was marching bands, there was you know, a truck with music. There was even a group of people who decided to retort to the riot police with singing. Chants and simple little ohms and just playing the drums and really just kind of having a good time at that point.
While meeting with the corporate elite inside, Stephen Harper commented on the protests outside. Yet as the afternoon wore on, there was a growing sense that the worst of the confrontations with the police was over, and that we could finish the remainder of our demonstration in peace. Though while attempting to adjust our tripod to get alternate angles of the police, trouble began to brew off camera, and by the time we realized someone had again been pepper sprayed, the final confrontation was already underway. Dan Dix was also on hand to capture some of the final moments as well.
Once they decided to break up the crowd, essentially, it was tear gas canister after tear gas canister after tear gas canister. Out came the rubber bullets. At one point, I didn't even have anywhere safe to be standing. To To the right was a wall of riot police, behind me was riot police, to the left was a wall of tear gas, and then all of a sudden they started marching. So yeah, that's when everybody started getting pushed back further and further and further, all the way back to the cemetery line.
As you three leaders meet here, there are a growing number of people in each of your countries who have expressed concern about the Security and Prosperity Partnership. This is addressed to all three of you. Can you say today that this is not a prelude to a North American Union, similar to a European Union? Are there plans to build some kind of superhighway connecting all three countries? And do you believe all of these theories about a possible erosion of national identity stem from a lack of transparency from this partnership?
You know, we had some business leaders in front of us today. One in particular said, you know, the rules for jelly beans. He manufactures jelly beans. The rules for jelly bean contents are different in Canada and the United States. They have to maintain two separate inventories. Is the sovereignty of Canada going to fall apart if we standardize the jelly beans? You know, I don't think so. Maybe Mr. Dion thinks so, but I don't think so.
By the end of the day, Stephen Harper's comments about the protest being sad became ironically evident. But in actual fact, they were sad because as Canadian citizens, we were stripped of our right to peacefully assemble, we were stripped of our right to be seen and heard by our politicians, and we were ultimately stripped of our right to remain Canadian citizens in a sovereign country that is for the people and by the people. And so, after being subjected to chemical weapons and an overwhelming police presence, the remaining protesters went home. The following day, Dan Dix and his brother Kevin returned to the gates of Montebello, only to find less than a dozen protesters and a much subdued police presence compared with the day before.
We do not have to be part of the North American Union if we choose not to be, but people need to voice their dissent. It's utterly important.
Can I ask you a question? Can you explain to me how rock throwing and throwing things, how is that not violent? Because
the rock throwing is violent. The act of throwing a rock is an act of violence.
There were dozens of rocks.
There were maybe a couple dozen rocks thrown by a group of about 30 or 40 out of 1,500. And in the same way that I saw individual police officers beat down people who had been arrested, I know that doesn't represent all of them. Not every single one of these guys would crack me in the head if I were sitting peacefully on the ground, but one or two of them would, and we know that that doesn't represent them as a whole, and it has to be taken the same way for protesters. Anyone else have any other questions?
Why there are 5 times more journalists here than protesters?
Yeah, I do know why. Because yesterday it was made very clear that with this level of force that's here, that we're not going to get in, we're not going to disrupt the meeting, and people don't like getting tear gassed and shot. Hard to believe, but people don't like that. And this massive display of force, the security in the Security and Prosperity Partnership scared free speech away. Security, in this sense, is an end to free speech and public dissent and democracy in this country.
So what about standing together, united, we can never be defeated? Is that not true then?
It's true, but tear gas really sucks. And 1,500 people non-violently protesting against 3,000 police is not a winnable battle. And when they import OPP police into Quebec out of their jurisdiction to protect war criminals, there's not much peaceful protesters can do unless we have much more numbers. And that's why we urge all Canadians to realize what this is about and to come out and voice their displeasure with what's happening here. It's really important. If people don't come out, this is going to be our future. So I'd like to ask you again, can we please come inside and voice our peaceful dissent to our political leaders? You guys all know that we have a right to be in there peacefully, and I'm sure you all know that the 5 of us are going to be completely peaceful. If anyone doubts that, please put up your hand. Okay, so we have a consensus. We are peaceful protesters and have a right to go inside. Are you going to let us exercise our rights? Or are you going to deny us our right to free speech?
I want to go too.
Is there someone in charge here who I can speak to?
His name's Stephen Harper.
His name's George Bush. No, really, is there someone who will come and answer a question? Anyone? There's a couple thousand police, and not one member of the police will come and actually talk to the protesters. Anyone want to answer a question? Why can't we come inside? Why can we not voice our dissent to our political leaders? Anyone? Anyone?
I have an answer.
I'm asking. I want to answer from the police or someone on the other side of the line. There's a couple of people who don't look like cops over there. Maybe you can tell me. Guys in the backward hats. You don't look like fascists. Why can't we come in? You're not going to answer either? No one? No one behind this line? There's about at least 50 cops here. So the 5 of us are not going to try to get inside. That seems like a bad idea to me. And if you guys won't even answer a question for us, not one commanding officer, no one's in charge here, well, that looks like the end of free speech in Montebello, ladies and gentlemen. So rather than getting arrested and staying here and continuing to have our rights denied, we are going to leave. Thank you all for coming.
Since Montebello, the resistance movement to the SPP agenda has only become stronger. Public forums in communities across the country, like this one held just prior to the recent SPP summit meeting of April 21st and 22nd, 2008 in New Orleans, show just how a growing number of citizens and politicians are coming together to strategize ways to fight the SPP.
Recently, in February, there was also a secret agreement that was signed between the Canadian military and the U.S. military, allowing the U.S. military to operate on Canadian soil under U.S. command if it has the permission of the Canadian government. Now, how did we find out about this? Well, the Canadian government kept it secret, so did the Canadian military. The U.S. military, though, broadcast it on their website. So Canadians found out through the U.S. that this agreement had been signed on February 14th.
We are just within days of the next SPP summit in New Orleans. This is the 4th SPP summit. And it'll begin, I believe, April 20th, I think, Sunday.
Monday and Tuesday.
Monday and Tuesday of next week, the next SPP summit. Now, what's interesting, a bit of a side note on this, is you're not going to see, they're not going to call this the SPP summit, right? There's already a movement underway by vested interests to rebrand the SPP as something else. We need to be very clear on this. And this is very deliberate, and it's deliberate because it's become controversial and more Canadians are knowing about this. So, and that's a strategy. You know, if you have a set target, you make it sort of shift by rebranding it, right? So when Bush announced during the State of the Union address that the 3 leaders would be meeting in New Orleans, he called it the North American Leaders Summit, or the Summit of the North American Leaders. He didn't refer to it as the SPP. Harper and any of the press releases that are coming out here when they meet next week are not referring to this as an SPP summit.
What are the biggest things Canadians need to do right now to stop the SPP? You've spoken on this across the country, so you've both spoken out and explained it clearly and received extremely positive feedback for your efforts. What do Canadians need to do right now to stop or investigate, or whatever you prefer, the SPP?
They need to get active. They need to. We have petitions that we're distributing. We're presenting them all every day in the House of Commons, and we need to make sure that people get active by writing emails, writing to the local member of Parliament, writing to the media and asking the media why they're not covering it. We've got some notable exceptions. Independent journalists are doing a great job, so are local journalists. We need the national media to weigh in on this issue, and they need to get get galvanized politically. The next election campaign is going to be a very important campaign for Canada's history. The NDP is running in all 308 ridings of the country. We're the only party aside from the Conservative Party that is running everywhere, and we're saying to Canadians, if you vote for us, we will stop the SPP.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Mr.
Thank
Julian.
you. Nice to speak to you.
Absolutely.
Thanks for all your good work. Thank you.
Confronting politicians and business leaders like Dan Dix did with former Prime Minister Jean Chrétien at a book signing in early December of 2007 are also examples of effective ways to get the word out, especially when these videos are then posted online to sites like YouTube.
Hi. All right, it's to Dan. Just wondering if I could ask you two really quick questions. You were in Vancouver a couple days ago, and some guys gave you a copy of Loose Change Final Cut. Just wondering if you had a chance to watch it yet.
Not yet.
Okay. And I saw a video clip of you once where you mentioned that things are moving towards a new world order. Does that mean you're in favor of the North American Union?
No.
No? Okay, thank you. Okay. Thanks.
And holding rallies like those of February 16th are vitally important to bring together citizens who are concerned about the same issues, where they can stand together in solidarity to show the government that there is a voice and it will not go unheard.
I was having coffee today. I went into the coffee shop and the lady said, I don't want to hear about what you're up to. I don't want to hear about this protest, and isn't that funny? Do we need to get kicked on our ass and lose our rights? Do we need to lose all the things that we love about this country before we do something about it? No! So, stop SPP! 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 The only way we're going to stop SPP is if we do everything we can and say every single day until they stop this thing. The only way we're going to stop it is if we never stop until they stop. Exactly. It's called willpower. It's called Canadian. Tell everyone. We are Canadian. We are Canadian. We are Canadian. We are Canadian.
People, Canada's ours. Don't let people take away Canada. It's ours. Belongs to the people, not to the corporate elite. The criminals that are trying to take away Canada, it is ours. And it'll always be ours. Remember that.
We need to get the word out. The more of us that know, the better chance we have of stopping this crap. Once again, thanks for coming.